Hey there!
Mm.
Welcome back. Today, we're diving deep into a topic that's been making waves. Tubi, Fox Corporation's ownership, and what it means for Black representation in media.
Okay.
We've got this really interesting mix of sources for this one. YouTube videos, articles, giving us a bunch of different viewpoints,
Hmm.
from creators like Pillboy to organizations like Official Black Wall Street.
Right.
It's going to be a deep dive that makes you think, are we seeing exploitation of Black creatives on Tubi? Are the profits they're making off Black viewership being used in ways that could actually harm those same communities? Could Tubi, under Fox, be a new form of Blaxploitation?
It's fascinating how this tension between genuine representation and, let's call it, profit-driven exploitation has been a recurring theme, especially when it comes to Black creators and stories. You can see this dynamic throughout history, from the era of minstrelsy to the rise of Blaxploitation films, and it seems like Tubi's current content trends,
Yep.
given its connection to Fox, might just be another chapter in this complex.
Yeah, I see what you mean. So to understand where we are now, let's rewind. Back in March 2020, Fox Corporation bought Tubi for a hefty $440 million.
Wow.
And since then, Tubi's viewership has just exploded, growing by almost 60% in 2023.
Right.
And a big chunk of that growth is coming from Black audiences.
That's interesting. That definitely raises some questions about motive. Why is Fox so interested in this platform and in this particular audience?
Exactly. And that's where Official Black Wall Street comes in, with some pretty serious concerns. They point to Fox's track record, the kinds of programming they've aired, their political leanings, and argue that Fox might be using Tubi to push content that reinforces negative stereotypes about Black communities. And what's even more unsettling is their suggestion that Fox could be using the profits they're making from Black viewers to support policies that could actually harm those same communities.
That's where this conversation gets really complex and, frankly, a bit unsettling. We're talking about the potential impact of Fox's political spending on things like voting rights, civil rights protections, and efforts to address systemic racism. These aren't just abstract ideas. They directly affect people's lives.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got this backdrop of a potential corporate interests and political maneuvering, and then we have creators like Pillboy who are trying to navigate this landscape. I was really struck by his YouTube video where he draws a parallel between Tubi and the Blaxploitation movement of the past.
Interesting.
He's not saying Tubi is all bad. He acknowledges that it offers a platform for Black creators.
Right.
But his main point is that because of who owns Tubi, there might be a built-in incentive to create content that plays into harmful stereotypes and tropes, even if that's not the creator's intention.
It's like this double-edged sword. On the one hand, you have this desire for representation, which is completely valid and powerful. But on the other hand, that desire can be exploited for profit, leading to the reinforcement of narratives that ultimately harm the very communities they claim to represent.
And Pillboy doesn't just make these claims in a vacuum. He calls out specific Tubi movies that he feels fit this pattern. He talks about movies like PPP Loan Gone, which deals with fraudulent schemes, and Sloppy Seconds, which explores themes of abuse. And I gotta agree with him, these titles don't exactly scream nuanced portrayals of Black life.
That's a great point. You said earlier that this deep dive would make us think. And you're right. It reminds me of the Blaxploitation movement. Studios back then capitalized on the demand for Black representation, but often produced films that relied on stereotypes and sensationalism for profit. I wonder, are we seeing a similar dynamic play out on Tubi, where certain types of content are being prioritized because they fit pre-existing biases, rather than challenging those biases?
It's definitely something to consider. And speaking of challenging biases and getting to the heart of authentic representation, we need to talk about this anonymous document we came across, Tubi.pdf. This thing drops a pretty big bombshell. It alleges that Tubi is planning to replace Black American actors
What?
with South African actors and have them use fake accents, all to cut costs.
Wow. If that's true,
Yeah.
that's deeply concerning. It raises serious questions about authenticity and whether there's genuine respect for diverse Black experiences. Think about what that kind of move would communicate. Black American actors are marginalized. The idea of Blackness becomes a caricature, performance.
Exactly. And to me, this ties directly back to Pillboy's central argument. Who gets to control the narrative? Who benefits from the stories that are being told?
That's the core of the issue. We, as consumers and as a society, need to be far more critical about the platforms we engage with and the content we consume. Representation is crucial, but it has to be more than just a surface-level gesture. It needs to be authentic, empowering, and truly reflective of the full spectrum of Black experiences.
Pillboy, though,
Okay.
isn't just calling out the problems. He's offering a solution, a call to action. He's calling it a Tubi renaissance.
Okay.
He's urging Black filmmakers to take back control of the platform
Yep.
and produce content that's more nuanced, artistic, and ultimately empowering.
That's a bold and inspiring vision.
Yeah.
But let's be realistic. Mobilizing a movement of independent filmmakers to reshape an entire platform like Tubi isn't simple. There are real obstacles, from funding disparities to the way algorithms can prioritize certain types of content over others.
You're right. We need to understand those challenges better and figure out how to address them if this Tubi renaissance is going to have a real chance. So where do we even begin to unpack this?
Well, I think a good place to start is by exploring what this Tubi renaissance might actually look like in terms of content. What kind of stories are we talking about?
That's a great question, and I think we can find some clues in Pillboy's work. He gives us a glimpse of what he envisions, films that are artsy, experimental, thought-provoking, and unapologetically Black.
Interesting. What sort of inspiration does he point to? Any filmmakers or films that embody this vision?
He actually references movies like Moonlight and Killer of Sheep, films that explore the complexities of Black life with depth and nuance.
Yeah.
Going beyond those stereotypical portrayals we were talking about earlier, I think what he's advocating for is a kind of cinema that reflects the full spectrum of Black experiences, the joy, the pain, the triumphs, the everyday realities that are often overlooked or misrepresented in mainstream media.
That's powerful. It's about reclaiming the power to define yourself.
Yeah.
On your own terms, through your own stories. I love that, but I'm curious, is it all about serious dramas and art house films?
Not at all. Pillboy emphasizes that this isn't just about one type of film. He wants to see comedies, sci-fi, thrillers, romances, all kinds of stories told from a Black perspective, with Black characters at the center of the narrative.
That's what makes it so exciting. A Tubi, where you can find a quirky Black rom-com, alongside a thought-provoking documentary about Black history, followed by a sci-fi adventure featuring a Black woman saving the world. Now that's a platform I'd subscribe to.
Me too. But we have to acknowledge that creating this Tubi renaissance faces some real barriers. Black filmmakers face challenges, both within the industry as a whole and on platforms like Tubi specifically.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We can't just snap our fingers and expect change to happen overnight. We need to understand the systemic issues at play, like funding disparities and how those algorithms we mentioned earlier can actually work against diverse content.
Right. Even if Black filmmakers create amazing, diverse films and shows, there's no guarantee they'll reach a wide audience. So how do we address that? Well, Pillboy does offer some strategies, and one of them is to leverage the power of social media.
Okay.
He encourages Black creators to promote their work online, build communities around their projects, and generate excitement that will attract viewers.
He's talking about harnessing the power of word-of-mouth marketing, using social media to bypass traditional gatekeepers and connect directly with audiences. It's a tactic that's worked for a lot of independent creators, especially those from marginalized communities.
And Pillboy doesn't stop there. He also emphasizes the importance of collaboration. He wants Black filmmakers to support each other, share resources, and build networks that can help amplify their voices.
That's a powerful idea, a collective of Black creators working together, pooling their talents and resources to create a wave of diverse, high-quality content that floods the platform. It's about building a movement, a force for change that can't be ignored.
It's inspiring, but I wonder if it also requires a shift in mindset, both among creators and viewers. We need to move beyond the idea that Black stories are only marketable if they fit into specific, narrow stereotypes.
You're absolutely right. And we as viewers need to be more conscious of the content we consume.
Right.
Do we passively accept what's presented to us? Or do we actively seek out diverse voices and perspectives? Do we support creators who are pushing boundaries and challenging the status quo?
These are questions we all need to ask ourselves. It's not just about Tubi. It's about reclaiming control of our narratives, shaping our own image, and creating a media landscape that reflects the richness and complexity of Black life.
And that's a vision worth fighting for. It's about empowerment, representation, ensuring that Black stories are told authentically, powerfully, and on our own terms. It's about creating a future where Tubi movies are synonymous with quality, diversity, and a celebration of Black creativity.
I love that. And speaking of celebrating Black creativity, there's another point Pillboy makes that I think is crucial. It goes back to what we were talking about earlier about authenticity and representation. He emphasizes the importance of supporting and uplifting Black actors specifically.
Oh, absolutely. Remember that claim from the Tubi.pdf document
Okay.
about potentially replacing Black American actors with South African actors using fake accents? It's not just about cost cutting. It's about erasing the unique nuances of Black American experiences.
Exactly, and it highlights a really disturbing trend in the entertainment industry. This idea that Blackness is somehow interchangeable, that any Black actor can play any Black role.
That couldn't be further from the truth. Black experiences are diverse, shaped by history, culture, geography. A Black actor from South Africa brings something different to a role than a Black actor from the American South, from the Caribbean, from Europe. To pretend otherwise is not only disrespectful, but it robs audiences of the richness and authenticity that diverse casting can bring.
I think Pillboy's vision for a Tubi Renaissance is, in many ways, about reclaiming that specificity, that authenticity. It's about making sure Black stories are told by the people who've lived those experiences, who can bring that depth and nuance to the screen.
Which means supporting Black actors, directors, writers,
Yeah.
producers, the whole ecosystem of Black talent that's out there, ready to tell their stories.
It's a call to action for viewers, too. We need to be more discerning, more critical, and more vocal in our support for authentic Black representation. We need to demand better, and we need to vote with our eyeballs, choosing content that reflects the diversity and complexity of Black experiences.
Because, as Pillboy reminds us, we have the power to change the narrative. We can choose to support content that reinforces harmful stereotypes. Or we can choose to support content that challenges those stereotypes, that expands our understanding, and that celebrates the full spectrum of Black creativity.
It's a powerful message, and one that I think resonates deeply with me, but I also think it raises some practical questions. How do we go from this inspiring vision to concrete action? What can we do as individuals and as a community to make this Tubi Renaissance happen?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's about translating this collective energy, this desire for change, into a tangible roadmap for action.
And that's exactly what we'll explore in the next part of this deep dive. We'll be looking at the practical steps we can take, both as consumers and potential creators, to support this movement and reshape the landscape of Black representation.
So we're talking about a roadmap for action, turning this vision of a Tubi Renaissance into something real. But before we get into the how, maybe we should spend a little more time on the what. What might this Tubi Renaissance actually look like when it comes to the content itself? What kinds of stories are we envisioning here?
That's a great point. It's easy to get caught up in the big ideas, but it's the stories themselves that will ultimately make the difference. I think Pillboy gives us some clues in his work. Remember those films he referenced? Moonlight and Killer of Sheep? He's talking about films that are, in his words, artsy, experimental, thought-provoking, and unapologetically Black.
Those are powerful descriptors. And when he points to those specific films, it seems like he's advocating for a kind of cinema that moves beyond surface-level portrayals. It's about digging deeper into the complexities of Black life, exploring those nuances that are often overlooked.
Exactly. And it's not just limited to those genres. Pillboy wants to see a range of stories, comedies, sci-fi, thrillers, romances, all told from a Black perspective, with Black characters at the center. He wants to see Black characters driving the narrative, not just playing supporting roles.
Now that's a vision I can get behind. Imagine a Tubi where you can find a sharp, witty, Black rom-com, then switch over to a thought-provoking documentary about Black history, and then maybe finish the night with a sci-fi adventure where a Black woman is saving the world. That's a diverse, exciting platform.
It definitely is. But let's be honest, creating this Tubi Renaissance will be a challenge. We can't ignore the systemic hurdles that Black filmmakers face, both within the industry and specifically on platforms like Tubi.
We've got to be realistic. Change doesn't happen overnight. Those funding disparities we discussed, they're a huge problem. And then there's the issue of the algorithms that these streaming services rely on. They can actually work against diversity even when the intention is good.
You're right. Even if Black filmmakers are creating incredible, diverse content, it's not guaranteed to reach a large audience. If the algorithm isn't designed to prioritize that content, it can get buried.
It's a complex problem. It's not enough to simply create the content. You have to find ways to get it seen.
So how do we tackle that? Well, Pillboy suggests a few strategies. He emphasizes the importance of social media. It's about using those platforms to promote your work, build a community around your project, and generate that word-of-mouth excitement that will draw viewers in.
It makes sense. Social media can be a powerful tool for independent creators, especially those who might not have access to traditional marketing avenues. It's a way to bypass those gatekeepers and connect directly with your audience.
Pillboy doesn't just stop at social media, though. He also talks about the importance of collaboration. He urges Black filmmakers to support each other, share resources, and build networks that can help amplify their voices.
That's a powerful idea. A collective effort to reshape the landscape of Black representation. Imagine a network of Black filmmakers working together, pooling their talents and resources to create a wave of diverse, high-quality content that floods the platform. It's about building a movement.
A movement for change, but it might also require a change in mindset, not just among creators, but among viewers as well. We have to move beyond this idea that Black stories are only marketable if they fit into certain narrow stereotypes. We need to embrace the full spectrum of Black experiences and support the creators who are telling those stories.
That's a crucial point. It's about challenging our own assumptions and biases. As viewers, do we simply accept what's presented to us? Or do we actively seek out diverse voices and perspectives? Do we support the creators who are pushing boundaries?
These are questions we all need to ask ourselves. And it's not just about Tubi. It's about reclaiming control of our narratives. It's about shaping our own image and creating a media landscape that reflects the richness and complexity of Black life in all its forms.
And that brings us back to that idea of a roadmap. We have the vision, we've identified some of the challenges, but how do we translate all of this into action? How do we actually make this Tubi renaissance happen?
I'm glad you asked that.
Yeah.
Because in the final part of this deep dive, we're going to tackle exactly that. We'll explore some practical steps we can all take as viewers and as potential creators to support this movement and reshape the landscape of Black representation.
Okay, so we've talked about the challenges facing Black representation on Tubi, and we've explored Pillboy's vision for a Tubi renaissance. But now, let's get down to the nitty-gritty. What can we actually do to support this movement? Well, it's important to recognize that there's no single solution, no magic wand we can wave. This requires a multifaceted approach, a combination of individual actions and collective effort. It's about changing the system from both within and without.
So let's break it down first. What can we, as viewers, as consumers of media, do to make a difference? Where do we even begin?
One of the most powerful things we can do is become more conscious consumers. It's about being intentional about what we watch, choosing content that aligns with our values, and the kind of representation we want to see more of in the world.
That sounds simple enough, but in a world of endless streaming options, how do we actually find those hidden gems, those films and shows that are pushing boundaries and telling authentic Black stories? It's easy to get overwhelmed and just default to what the algorithm recommends.
That's where our critical thinking skills come in. We can't just passively accept what the algorithm feeds us. We need to do our own research, seek out diverse voices, read reviews, and follow creators whose work resonates with us. There are tons of online resources and communities dedicated to highlighting independent films and filmmakers.
Don't underestimate the power of word of mouth either. If you find something amazing, shout it from the rooftops. Share it with your friends, family, social media followers. Spread the word. Help amplify those voices and get those stories seen.
Absolutely. Social media can be a game changer for independent creators, especially those from marginalized communities. It allows them to bypass those traditional gatekeepers and connect directly with their audience. And it's not just about sharing, it's about engaging. Leave comments, start discussions, let creators know their work is being seen and appreciated.
Right. It's about building a community around those stories. And for those who are feeling really ambitious, you can take it a step further. Write reviews, create fan videos, even start online communities dedicated to supporting those creators. The more buzz you generate, the more visible these projects become.
Speaking of visibility, we've talked a lot about algorithms and how they can sometimes hinder discoverability. But algorithms are, at their core, just reflections of our collective choices. So the more we actively seek out and engage with diverse content, the more the algorithm will learn to prioritize and recommend those kinds of stories.
It's like a feedback loop. Our choices shape the algorithm, and in turn influences what we see. So we have more power than we might realize. And that brings me to another crucial point. Financial support. It's one thing to watch and share, but we also need to put our money where our mouths are and directly support the creators we believe in.
Absolutely. Even small contributions can make a huge difference. Subscribing to their channels, donating to crowdfunding campaigns, buying merchandise. These actions directly support the creation of more diverse content. It shows creators that their work has value and that there's an audience hungry for their stories.
And don't forget the power of feedback. Take the time to reach out to creators. Let them know what resonated with you, what you loved about their work, what you'd like to see more of. Constructive feedback can be so valuable. especially for independent artists who are often working with limited resources and support.
It's about building a reciprocal relationship, showing appreciation, providing encouragement, and contributing to the growth of a more diverse and inclusive media landscape.
So we've talked about what we can do as viewers and supporters, but what about those who want to contribute to this Tubi renaissance as creators? What advice does Pillboy have for aspiring filmmakers?
Pillboy's message is simple and powerful. Just go for it. Don't wait for permission. Don't let fear hold you back. If you have a story to tell, pick up a camera, start writing, experiment, and find your voice. The barriers to entry are lower than ever before.
That's true. We live in a time where you don't necessarily need a Hollywood budget or fancy equipment to create compelling content. You can shoot a film on your phone, edit it on your laptop, and
Yeah,
distribute it online.
exactly. The tools are more accessible than ever before. Technology has democratized filmmaking in so many ways. But as you said earlier, creating the content is only half the battle. You need to get it seen.
And that's where strategy comes in. Pillboy emphasizes the importance of building a community around your work even before you release it. Engage with potential viewers online. Get them excited about your project and create a buzz that will help it stand out in a crowded digital landscape. It's about creating a movement around your work.
And don't be afraid to experiment. With different platforms and distribution strategies, Tubi might be a great starting point. But it's not the only option. Explore other streaming services, film festivals, and online communities that cater to your target audience.
Another key point Pillboy makes is the importance of collaboration. Connect with other Black creators, share resources, support each other's work, build a network that can amplify your collective voices. There's strength in numbers, and by working together, you can overcome some of those systemic barriers we've been talking about.
It's about building a movement from the ground up, a movement that challenges the status quo and demands a more inclusive and equitable media landscape. That's a lot of work, and it won't happen overnight, but it's a vision worth fighting for.
So where does this leave us? What's the takeaway for our listeners? I think it boils down to this. We all have a role to play in shaping the future of Black representation in media. We can be passive consumers, simply accepting what's presented to us. Or we can be active participants, demanding better, supporting the creators who are pushing boundaries, and maybe even becoming creators ourselves.
It's about taking ownership of our stories, celebrating our diversity, and creating a media landscape that reflects the full spectrum of Black experiences,
Right.
the joy, the pain, the triumphs, the struggles, the everyday realities that make us who we are. It's about reclaiming our narratives and shaping our own image.
And it all starts with a single step. So I encourage you to think about what resonated with you today. What action will you take? Will you seek out diverse content? Will you support a Black creator? Will you pick up a camera and tell your own story?
The choice is yours. Remember, even small actions can ripple outward and create a wave of change. The Tubi Renaissance might seem like a lofty goal, but it's within our reach if we work together. So let's get started.
That's it for our deep dive into Tubi and the future of Black representation. We've covered a lot of ground today, but this is just the beginning of the conversation. We encourage you to continue exploring these issues, check out the sources we mentioned, and share your own thoughts and insights. Thanks for joining us.